The history of 16-bit Disney games is long and full of different developers, publishers, and games of varying quality. Among the better releases, you had a group of games truly worth playing, while the lower tier stuff was often bottom-of-the-barrel garbage, not worth any of your time. Luckily, Sega was not the only one capable of turning out something worth playing. After the dumpster fires that were Fantasia, Tailspin, The Little Mermaid, and the two Beauty and the Beast releases, Virgin Games stepped over that graveyard of disappointment and delivered their adaptation of the animated film, Aladdin. Though their deadline was short, Virgin was armed with a team of Disney animators and a group of talented game makers with a plan. When November of 1993 rolled around, it was time to see what they had accomplished and whether or not it would live up to the film's iconic status. I won't lie to you, my opinion of Western development was pretty low in 1993, so I expected this to be an absolute train wreck start to finish. No doubt this was going to be just another poor playing platformer with a god-awful gem soundtrack that would be as unplayable as the trash I mentioned earlier. I sat down to give it a try, expecting the worst, and boy did I come away with the shock of my life. I hope you guys enjoy my review of Aladdin for the Sega Genesis. As you'd expect, Aladdin follows the story of the film with some light cinematics to get you started. The Princess Jasmine is in some pretty big trouble thanks to the evil Jafar, and only you can stop him. There is a legend to tell you what everything means in the game at the start, so be sure to pay attention to it. Apples are used as projectile ammunition, gems are collected for a chance at extra lives and continues, blue hearts restore your life, black lamps act as a screen-clearing nuke attack, a blue vase is your checkpoint, Aladdin's head is an extra life, and the little monkey and genie heads are for the bonus stages. From there, we get a pretty straightforward action romp with lots of platforming, collecting, and enemies to dispatch. Along with apples to throw, Aladdin has a sword at his disposal for close quarters combat. That sword can also deflect enemy projectiles if timed properly, which can damage enemies in return. The stage design relies on lots of verticality. Rarely will you just be running right or left for long distances. There's plenty of ropes, wires, stairs, carpets, chains, and buildings to climb up. Every so often you'll come across an enemy that needs a little more planning to take down. Not really bosses in the traditional sense, but more lieutenant class fodder to keep in line with the story. Environmental dangers are everywhere. Sometimes it's pots being dropped on your head, sometimes it's spikes or fire at your feet, and sometimes it's wrecking balls swinging in and out of the backgrounds. The variety in these dangers, and the enemies in general, tends to change up quite a bit level to level. In fact, one of this adventure's greatest assets is its diversity in locations and the things you have to deal with within them. As previously mentioned, there are two forms of bonus stages. The first is from the genie heads you collect. It's sort of slot machine style and you can win apples, gems, and extra lives. Land on Jafar and it's game over. The second type of bonus stage is controlling Aladdin's monkey pal Abu. Here you can collect gems while avoiding things trying to hit you. Gems are pretty important because they can be traded at a merchant stand for extra lives and wishes, which are basically just continues. While this is not a particularly difficult game on the normal setting, these extra continues come in handy when trying to defeat the harder mode. The lead programmer on this was Dave Perry, who would go on to do Earthworm Jim the following year. The two share numerous traits, and if you enjoyed one, you'll almost certainly enjoy the other. The animation in Aladdin really stands out. When it was released in late 1993, the Genesis hardware was already more than 5 years old, or a lifetime in terms of console gaming systems. It isn't so much that games didn't have great animation before this, it's just that this one was so well done across the board. It's not just your main character sprite that moves well, it's every enemy, every environmental danger, heck even the stage accents are animated impressively. Along with the brilliant movement of the characters in the foreground, we also get some pretty nice looking backgrounds. They sport film accurate details and multiple layers of parallax scrolling. The developers also made sure to really use the available color of the Genesis to its fullest potential. Rarely will you ever look at any scene in this game and go, wow, this could have used more color. The bright and sunny city portions work nice with the desert tones of the film, just as the dark and dreary dungeon and cave portions come off equally as faithful. As a nice bonus, you get the flying carpet escape ride, which is incredibly fast, featured nice background layering, and of course even more of that outstanding animation. This was ultimately one of those experiences that really garnered the Genesis a ton of respect in the mainstream. While the platform certainly showed its age in many ways, it was still quite capable of providing fantastic games that looked every bit as impressive as its more up-to-date counterparts. Visually, Aladdin was a credit to Virgin Games, its development team, and the enduring power of the Genesis as a gaming platform. Aladdin uses the GEM sound driver. To many Western developed games, this was a sentence worse than death. Lucky for us, the sound team on this included some folks that really knew what they were doing. Instead of churning out the dreaded farts and burps that many games did with gems, most of what you'll hear here is actually pretty good. While not every track and sound effect comes off perfectly, it is orders of magnitude better than what you typically heard. Let's have a listen to a few examples. Aladdin on the Genesis is one of the best reviewed games of the 16-bit era. No joke, nearly every publication across the globe universally praised its sound, visuals, and gameplay at its release. Whether it was in the United States, the United Kingdom, or anywhere else for that matter, Aladdin was a massive hit for Virgin, Disney, and Sega. It sold more than 4 million copies worldwide, putting it right up there with the Sonic games as one of the platform's most financially successful releases. And I legitimately have few grievances with any of that. Aladdin is a well-designed 16-bit platformer that is easy to pick up and play, provides a great audio-visual representation of the film on which it's based, and carries with it a replayability to see it all to the end. There are of course numerous little complaints I can make. I can't stand the erratic nature of some of the enemies like the bats. These little irritations seem to be able to hit you no matter how you position yourself. I was also bothered by the abundance of pit deaths in the late game. In fact, I found the enemies to become no challenge at all, and when I did die, it was almost certainly from a mistimed jump. I mean, dying in what was clearly ankle-deep water was ridiculous. As an extension of that complaint, the difficulty in general is suspect. Once you get a feel for the swordplay and enemies, you'll walk through this with little issue. To worsen that observation, one of the most challenging stages in the game, the carpet escape, actually automatically allows you to pass it with 3 deaths. That's right, you get a pass for something you didn't earn. Finally, when it's all said and done, the ending to this one is just about as disappointing as they come. I don't want to ruin that ending, but let me just say this, for a game based on a film like Aladdin, it could have been so much better. These complaints, of course, do not ruin the overall quality. Aladdin is still fun to play today, and a great one to own thanks to its relatively cheap asking price. There is a section of retro gaming out there that turns every game, every platform, and every opinion into a war of words, trying to shape and mold history into their view of it. They will sit at their keyboards and argue for hours which Aladdin is best, the Sega version here, or the Super Nintendo release that was developed by Capcom. I am not one of those people. Both these releases are fine games worth playing and perfect examples of why the 16-bit era was so special. Back then, we often got different versions of the same IP for the various platforms. This gave you a reason to play them all just to see those differences. While I played the Sega version of Aladdin first, it no less impacted my desire to see what Capcom had produced, and once I did, I was glad I played it because it was well made and an enjoyable experience. As many of you know, some of the people that worked on Aladdin went on to form Shiny Entertainment, who continued to churn out the hits with multiple Earthworm Jim releases for the Genesis, Sega CD, and Game Gear. Virgin Games continued to do some pretty good stuff itself. In 1994, they developed the excellent RoboCop vs. Terminator and were involved in many other releases, including Disney's own The Jungle Book. While I often present a narrative that Western-developed 16-bit games were terrible, there is no doubt at all that the people at Virgin knew how to make a quality title. Aladdin was proof positive of this, and a shining example that even the dreaded Gem sound driver was capable in the proper hands. I believe this may be a theme that you can apply to the Sega Genesis itself. With all things being equal and in the hands of a talented team, Sega's 16-bit console was truly something special. You can sit around all day arguing which Aladdin you thought was best, but to me, having 2 completely different games was all that mattered, and why I love the way gaming used to be. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.